Okay, so several years ago, I don't remember how exactly, I got interested in the Tour de France. I didn't actually watch it, or even watch the highlights. I read the blogs. The official LeTour website and the BBC both run live blogs during each stage, which I would read after the stage was over, sometimes hours after. But still, they gave it a sense of immediacy and excitement. But they did miss things. For example, maybe they'll mention a few leaders in an early breakaway, but then, later, someone else is in front with no explanation of how he got there or what happened to the other guys. Or maybe I'd like to track the progress of someone who's not in the lead and not famous. The official site does have a race center that streams rider times while the stage is ongoing, but you'd have to pay pretty close attention 4 or 5 hours straight every day to catch everything. NBC has extended highlights they post on YouTube. I do watch those now. They're good, but a little random. They'll show the winner, the crashes, the scenery, but they don't really give a full picture. There's another YouTube channel called Lantern Rouge, which does a much better job at highlighting the pivotal moments of a stage, and it really excels at describing tactics used on sprint stages, but it's maybe 8 minutes long. It's not going to describe the path of every rider through the field. So I thought I could get a better picture by plotting the progress of each rider on a chart in a browser. If I get a snapshot of rider positions every few minutes and quickly update the page with each snapshot, a 5-hour stage would unfold in a fraction of the time. Now, one challenge with that is I don't really know JavaScript or CSS very well, but I had heard of the D3 Javascript library and thought I could try hacking one of their examples. The real problem is I don't have intraday snapshots of rider positions. All I could find were rider times at the end of each stage. So I just went with that. Pretend the whole tour is one continuous race, with each stage representing an intermediate point. So here's how the race looked after the first stage. In this view, I've arranged riders according to their team. The colors are meant to vaguely resemble their actual uniforms. The y-axis is elapsed time in hours, with the lowest value at the top. So leaders will be near the top of the screen, while laggards will be near the bottom. I added a yellow band in the middle, which represents 30 minutes. On different stages, the y-axis range will vary, but that yellow band will always represent 30 minutes. So you can get a sense of how spread out the riders are without needing to look too closely at the numbers. You can see here almost everyone is within about 15 minutes of each other, except Marc Soler, who is nearly 30 minutes back. He crashed badly, probably shouldn't have finished at all, and did drop out before stage 2. Stage 2 is another hilly stage. At the end of it, there's almost 30 minutes between the cumulative times for the first and last cyclist. Stage 3 is flat. Usually positions won't change much on a flat stage, but this year crashes, again, pushed some riders further back. Stage 4, another sprint stage. Stage 5 is a time trial. Time trials are relatively short. Their main purpose is to create significant but small gaps among the leaders. Back into the hills. Mountain stages are where things really start spreading. After the second mountain stage, there's more than 2 hours between top and bottom. And every team with podium aspirations is down to a single top rider. No co-leaders left this year. In the later stages, it's clear some teams have suffered more than others from attrition. Jumbo-Visma is down to 5 riders, soon to be 4. Groupama is already down to 4 riders, as is Lotto, whose leader is barely in the 50th percentile. Arkea has only 3 team members remaining. Stage 21, the end of the race. Tadej Pogačar finished in just under 83 hours, almost exactly 5 hours ahead of Tim de Klerk. There's another way to organize this, of course. Rather than grouping by team, we can sort by position. I can only fit about 60 little circles across the screen, so rather than one long line, we've got basically 3 rows. With this arrangement, it's clear there are no significant gaps for the first few stages. But in the mountains, we do see the separation. After the second mountain stage, Tadej Pogačar is 2 minutes ahead of second place. Everyone else is even further back. There's nearly 10 minutes between 13th and 14th place. We're not even halfway, but it seems clear that the podium places will come from this top group. As the tour progresses, you can see the third row shrinking. It indicates riders dropping out. By the end of the race, I think there were about 43 who did not finish. Stage 21, same results as before, just a different order. I had another approach meant to emphasize groups of riders. Doesn't really work in this pseudo race, but if we zoom in on the top 25, maybe it'll give you a sense of what I was going for here. In the early stages, everyone's close. In the mountains, we see some space. At the end, Pogačar's all alone. With some pretty big gaps between 12 and 13, and 15 and 16. The 25th best rider is over an hour behind Pogačar. It doesn't take a data visualization tool to figure out who won and by how much. It might be interesting to take a look at a rider closer to the middle, somebody like Sepp Kuss, who had a pretty bad first day, losing more than 16 minutes. He lost a little more time on stage 2, but did move up a bit in position. The flat stage is, of course, not much changed. In the hills and the mountains is where he really started showing his strength. And seemed to get stronger as the race went longer. On the final time trial, he moved into 33rd, and even managed to move up a spot on the last stage. Another example, Primož Roglič, one of the favorites before the race started, but he had a bad crash on stage 3. His time trial was decent, but he couldn't overcome his injuries in the mountains and dropped out. Now, I don't have enough data to show a legitimate animation of the race, but as long as we're pretending anyway, might as well keep going and pretend every rider maintains a perfectly steady pace on every stage and interpolate the intermediate points from that. A couple things to notice. Everyone starts from time 0 on the first stage. And I fiddled with the y-axis so the leaders will slowly progress up the screen. At the same time, it will slowly zoom out so the entire field will stay in the frame. I can do the same thing with a second view, although it gets a little psychedelic, probably easier to pick a single rider to focus on. So here I've picked Frank Bonamore, who also started a little slow on the first stage, but he did end up in the top 25. I don't know if the third view is worth it, but here you go. So there it is. A few different ways of visualizing the results for every rider at the 2021 Tour de France. Was it worth it? I don't know.